This is Freedom Investor Radio, and I'm John Pearl. It hit me like a freight train when I realized there was a better way, when I discovered that I could take my future into my own hands, when I realized I could invest my way to freedom. This is what I'm working towards. In each episode of Freedom Investor Radio, we will explore the tactics and strategies used by the top real estate investors and entrepreneurs in the nation. We will learn how you can start investing your way to freedom and take control of your life. Thanks so much for tuning in. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Freedom Investor Radio. I'm your host, John Pearl. Today, I'm joined by Adam Carswell. Adam, thanks for coming on today.
John, honored for you to have me here, and just want to say thank you for all of the hard work that you've put in to create this show and this platform. I know what it's like as a podcaster. People don't realize you pretty much just brought on an entire another job into your world, and it's a lot of work and it's a lot of fun. So just thank you for all that you do.
Absolutely. Appreciate that. So Adam, let's just jump right into it. I'm going to pass it over to you. Why don't you tell us first off what it is that you do now, and kind of just backtrack a little bit, early life, college years, life after college. What got you to where you are now?
Yeah. So right now I'd like to say I'm somewhat of a travel holic. I like to travel, and someone who legitimately I would say likes to travel and doesn't just say it. The past 2 years have obviously been a little bit more challenging and difficult, but recently my wife and I have gone on some trips, and I'm getting ready for another batch of them coming up here soon. And there's someone that I listen to quite frequently. His name is Myron Golden, Dr. Myron Golden. When he makes guest appearances on shows, he says, I'm a golfaholic. And I just love that because he's leading with lifestyle. And sometimes we get caught up and want to talk business first thing, but I think that the reason why we're on this planet is to live that lifestyle first. So obviously I love business, and you know that, and I'm excited to talk about it here today, but being able to just see as many corners of the world as possible has just been always a desire of mine, and my wife and I are now living it out. So thank you, John. Did that, I'm trying to remember if that even answered the question.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Traveling now. What about in the professional world? Tell us what you're doing in the professional world and how you ended up getting to do what you're doing now.
Yeah, so definitely want to lead by saying, I'm an entrepreneur and a podcast host. My number one focus, and where probably about 80% of my energy goes right now, is to how we know each other, John, which is through RaiseMasters, the number one mastermind for elite capital raisers. RaiseMasters, what we do is help ensure that our members' deals, when it comes to raising money, particularly in commercial real estate, but not limited to, we ensure that our members' deals get funded over and over again. Hunter Thompson is my business partner there. And it's just been an incredible journey over the past four, almost 5 years working alongside him, going from mentee to partner. Is just, it's been absolutely incredible. And in many ways, we feel like we're just getting started. So that's what I do primarily.
Great. Yeah. And I can vouch, I am a member of RaiseMasters. Extremely happy, extremely beneficial program. These guys are killing it. Recommend it to anybody out there who's in the real estate space and wanting to extend their knowledge and their skills in raising capital for their deals. So love what they've got going on. Let's talk a little bit about how you kind of your earlier life and what it is, like some of the major moments, light bulb moments in your past that made you realize, okay, you were in the W-2 world for a little bit. What was it that got you to say, hey, I don't want to live this life? I'm seeing some things I don't like here. I see a better life out there. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I had the opportunity to share this on a show recently, and I never even thought about it, but this is where it all started for me. Was between my freshman year and sophomore year of college. Let's put it this way. I had a typical freshman year. Academically wasn't so hot. Did have a good freshman year when it came to athletics. I played basketball. I ran track. And so anyways, coming home for the summer that year, I realized that some changes needed to be made. My parents weren't happy. They were thinking about not even sending me back because, like, we'll put it this way, I was somewhere near a 2.0 GPA. I ended up, hitting Dean's List multiple times after that. But there was this moment right there of fear and worry and thinking that I couldn't go back to school. And I made a massive change that summer. kind of, I guess you could just say in a nutshell, put away the selfish and kind of partying lifestyle that maybe I was getting sucked into as a typical college freshman, and just buckled down. And one thing that I did was I started going to the gym very consistently for the first time in my life outside of like practice and stuff. And then I had some friends that we started making some YouTube videos that summer, and they were like funny, goofy dance YouTube videos, like typical YouTube videos that you really wouldn't want to have on as you get older into your professional career. So if anyone wants to watch those, I actually do have them, as I'm saying now, like unlisted, like you wouldn't be able to find them, but they are pretty funny. So if you want to watch some of my old dance videos, you can. Anyways, we were having fun. We were getting thousands of views this summer, and this was, 2010. And someone who went to high school with one of my friends who we were doing the videos with ended up getting a job with the Cleveland Indians, which is where I worked over the summers throughout college. And he approached me one day out of nowhere. He's like, "Hey, you're friends with John Caldwell. I've seen your videos on YouTube." And we just started chatting at the stadium and connected and shared information. And I think he was one of the first like students that I met who was on LinkedIn. So I got LinkedIn. His name's Zach McMurray. Shout out to Zach. But this comes full circle here soon. So, fast forward probably 3-4 years later, I stayed connected with Zach. I'm watching him on LinkedIn. All of a sudden he's getting like his certificate in something from Duke, Yale. Like he's doing all these different like certificates and things that I didn't even know were possible. And like, I hit him up. I'm like, "Dude, how are you getting things from all these different universities?" And this is like 2012, 2013. And he's like, "Oh, I use this thing called Coursera. You can like take classes for free," which a lot of people I think at this point probably know what Coursera is. I don't think it's free anymore either. But I took his advice on that. And he's like, "Yeah, I listen to a lot of audiobooks too." And that was just like around the time when I had this conversation with him was when I first finished university. And there's another story we could go on here, but like I went to Belize for 2 years and I got my MBA while I was there. And so after I was done with my master's, that's when I finally realized like, man, the reason I wasn't hungry for self-education in the traditional, government indoctrination camps was because like, as soon as you're done learning, the last thing you want to do is go read a book or something like that. That was just how it was for me. So anyways, I just want to say it all started because I wouldn't have known Zach if we didn't do these goofy videos back in the day, right? So if I trace it all the way back to like, how did I first get the inspiration to start self-educating myself and get to where I'm at with you now here, John, then we wouldn't be here. So that's the initial moment. I think the light bulb went off was like, I just saw someone doing big things. Oh, he went on to get a job with Facebook. He's a VC now in venture capital. Like he's a very successful dude. Hit up Zach McMurray. But yeah, I was just watching him grow, and I was like, I want to be like that. And he's a really good friend.
Great. You mentioned, not doing so well starting off in college. I can definitely relate with you there. I think that light bulb moment didn't hit me till a couple years down the road in college, and I extended my party time a little longer than I should have. But that light bulb moment, the self-education, realizing there's a better way, and kind of seeing people working, until they're kind of too old to really enjoy life and not generating passive income. That's, for me, it was just observing other people that I worked with in there, who are older and, taking their advice. They're like, "Man, if there's a better way, I've been out here for 40 years. Like, if you could do something different, please, like, find a way, like, take it from me." And I'm like, okay. Then that's kind of what set me off down this path. But so you mentioned Belize. What were you doing down in Belize other than going to school?
Yeah. So halfway through college, my goal was to become a college basketball coach. And I say that because you can't really get a degree maybe some schools offer a degree in coaching, but it's like, okay, so I'd say right out of the gate, I was already projecting myself on an unconventional route. And I just knew that I love coaching. I knew that I love leadership. I coached summer basketball camps all throughout high school and throughout college. And I just love working with the kids, getting a championship team put together with I just never forget the first time I ever coached my team of 10-year-olds. We won the championship, and I'm like, dude, this is awesome. Because it's like, for me as a coach, you almost feel like you're playing through every single one of your players. You just have such a great influence on the game, and I really would prefer to coach more than actually play. And I know it's rare to say for a lot of hoopers out there, but I just figured out in college, like, this is what I want to do. So I did that. I had some connections through my coach at Westminster College in Belize. He had just come back from Belize after living there for about 10 years. And I was just like, "Coach, is there any way I can go to Belize, get my master's, and play basketball at the school that I'm at, because I saw someone who I used to play against go to the UK and do the same thing. Because in the NCAA, after you play 4 years, like, you're done. But we cracked the code, found out, yes, like, Adam, you can go here. So I did. I went, got my scholarship, played basketball at Galen University in Belize. And then, I'm 22, 23 years old, and just a crazy series of events took place in which the opportunity to become the head coach of Galen University while I was there happened halfway through my time there. So I went from player to head coach, and we won the national championship both years. And it was just incredible. And I finished my master's, and I was getting a little bit homesick. It was my first time in my life. I had been out of the US. So 2 years was a lot to take in. And I was just like, you know what? I had a lot of friends who were in the NCAA system working their way up the coaching ladder. And I'll never forget, one of my friends, like, working consistent 20-hour days, like just grunt work. And I knew if I went back to the States, I probably would have to start at the bottom of the ladder again. And I'm like, dude, you know what? I really don't know if I love basketball that much. I really like it, but I don't know if I love it like these guys. And so I'm like, you know what? I did what I needed to do, became head coach at 23, won a championship, and I love leadership. And so I'm just going to continue to keep seeking out positions of leadership throughout life. And that's what we did. I'm from Cleveland, Ohio originally, but I didn't want to go back to Cleveland after Belize. I mean, how could you want to? So I'm like, all right, I'm going to go to Washington, D.C. I had a friend there who was a recruiter for Sherwin-Williams, the paint company. And my parents' dream before the coaching stuff was for just all of their children to get Fortune 500 company jobs and work their way up the ladder, because that's the American dream, all that good stuff. And then quickly after 2 years in Washington, D.C., although I loved my time there, anyone who knew I was with Sherwin-Williams knew I was Sherwin-Williams. Like, I was all about the company. I just quickly saw, to your point, the people who I really looked up to and sought leadership from within the company, they were still working 60, 70, 80-hour weeks. And although they were making good money, what some would qualify as like accredited investor level, they were busy. And I was just like, I don't know. I don't think I want to do this. I want to find another way. So I'm really enjoying this interview, John. Thank you. I'm happy to go to the next chapter if you want.
Excellent. Yeah. I'd love to. Let's make the next chapter how leadership, the skills you picked up, being a coach, coaching others, especially to a national championship, which is extremely impressive. Kudos to you, sir. And so how does leadership play into what you're doing now, and some of the skills, some of the tricks, tips that you've taken away from your past in a leadership role, and how does it play into what you're doing now?
Leadership, what's coming to me right now is leadership is really tied to one thing, which is listening. And I'm sure if my wife listens to this interview, she'll probably smack me. But leadership really is tied to listening. And here's why. Hunter and I, we've built RaiseMasters as an example. We've gone from 0 to a little over 150 members in less than a year. And I mean, first of all, don't get me wrong, Hunter's decade of experience and really the one, driving the ship has served us well. And then I think on my side of things, helping the group grow, John, this. I mean, I have a very serious phone call with every single one of our members before they come into the group, just to really see if they're a good fit. Surprise, surprise. No, we do not accept everyone. I just had to say, I didn't say no to them, but I know, like, I will not be following up with that person. And maybe I'm sidetracking myself and getting on a negative vibe here. So I'll shift back to positive. Just say we don't accept everyone at RaiseMasters. And because of that, I do get to have these very powerful conversations with people and find out what do they do? What's their superpower? Where in the country or the world do they live? What are they focused on? Just reading people's energy over and over and over again. After you have phone calls like that with hundreds of people, you learn if you can just listen to little things that are important to each single person. All you have to do to gain credibility, you never have to be the smartest person in the room ever to gain credibility. You just have to listen and connect the dots and bring people together where their paths cross. And it could be anything from a city that they live in, a band that they listen to, a restaurant that they like, a certain food, a podcast. Like, there's so many crossroads, and matching people up based on their crossroads can really take their lives to the next level. And it makes you look good, makes you feel good. So so to me, leadership is really listening and connecting the dots to help people get to where they want to go.
Totally. Yeah. Listening. It's a very undervalued quality. And some, to your point, listening, you're talking to all these people, you don't want to bring the wrong person in. We have a great culture within that group right now. You don't want to bring in toxic person. So that's huge. So want to talk a little bit again about the mindset shift. We talked a little bit about why you ditched the W-2 job, but what about the mindset shift, going from the safety net of guaranteed paycheck to going out and doing it on your own, investor, entrepreneur? What were some things that you went through during that process?
First thing, I want everyone out there who is in some type of realm where you have a paycheck or you're thinking about leaving your W-2, you have to know that at some point in time, you will receive some type of resistance or temptation to not make the jump, whether it's from your job, your family, or your friends. So I look back to when I kind of had made up my mind. I knew I wanted to get into real estate. So I started working on my real estate license. And I can't tell you I probably had 3 or 4 conversations, whether it was with friends, family, someone who just cared about me, who I was telling them my plan. I'm like, look, in 6 months, I'm going to do this. I'm going to make the jump. As I mentioned, I was very successful at Sherwin-Williams, growing through, moving up, getting a promotion like every 6 months, like it was going very well. So people are looking at me like, are you crazy? Like, why would you jeopardize what you have going on here to leave and go do something that's not guaranteed? And the mindset shift actually came from a friend of mine, Chaz Irish, and we launched a t-shirt company during my time at Sherwin-Williams, and not like I know it's funny because we're millennials with a t-shirt company. What 27-year-old doesn't have a t-shirt company? But ours was a little different. What I figured out was I had a client at Sherwin who, you work with a lot of Hispanic contractors, at least in the Washington, D.C. area. And a lot of them don't have the confidence in their English to go to like a t-shirt shop and order shirts for their crews. And thankfully, my mother, who's Slovenian, taught me Spanish while I was growing up. So hablo poquito. And so I would just leverage the little Spanish that I knew to speak with these guys and be like, hey, necesita camisas. And we started a t-shirt company, basically like wholesaling t-shirts to clients. And Sherwin-Williams didn't know this, but like we were making money. And it was the first time in my life that like any of the profits that Chaz and I made, like it was coming straight back to us. And I was like, wow, this is cool. I think I like entrepreneurship. So that was when the mindset shifted. And then from that moment, I started studying and seeing like which direction can I go that's most guaranteed for success and wealth. And I was like, I'm either going to tech or either going to real estate. It's just pretty obvious. Most of the world's millionaires are in one of those two. So after reading Rich Dad Poor Dad twice, I'm like, all right, cool. We're gonna do real estate.
I was wondering when Rich Dad Poor Dad was going to come into this. I knew it had to somewhere.
At some point. A good friend of mine, Michael Flight, which anyone out there, if you want to look up libertyfund.io, that's a company that I play a significant role with in the marketing side of things. Michael jokes with me because he's been in real estate for over 30 years. He's like, look, dude, he's like, you're so lucky. We didn't have Rich Dad Poor Dad when I was growing up. We had to go read an encyclopedia or whatever to figure out how to get into real estate. Maybe not encyclopedia, but anyway, so yeah, that was the mindset shift. And I just want to seriously, if there's any guidance or leadership I can give to anyone who's listening right now, who is thinking about making the jump from, security of the paycheck, which is actually not, it's more of like a trap, I think. But you will face moments that make you think twice, and you have to continue to move forward based on the plan that you set for yourself. So do make sure you set an exit plan and stick to it, because there will be a moment that you go, oh, wait, should I do this? Like, sorry, it's coming to me. I'll say it real quick when we get to the next part. But I remember at Sherwin-Williams, I'm at the company like annual meeting, which is like the drink the Kool-Aid type of meetings. Every massive company has one of those. And I'm standing in a circle, and it's me, VP of the Eastern Division, another division. Like I'm standing next to all these VPs, which a year ago, when I didn't think I would ever leave this company, I would have died to be in that circle and have that conversation. And then now that I've already made up my mind and I know I'm going to be leaving, I'm standing here talking to all these people that I like always just wanted to be like. It was tempting because I'm like, oh, you're going to be so good over the next 10 years. Like they're just hyping me up. And I had to just blinders, smile and wave, boys. So yeah, I remember that.
That's awesome. What about, skill set? Is there a specific skill set required to go out on your own and do this? What are your thoughts?
Absolutely. I'm going to recommend that everyone take a moment to look up Myron Golden's 4 levels of value. I've also done a snippet on my podcast as well, Dream Chasers. I want to say somewhere in the episode like 170 area, called The Power of Communication. But I adopted my presentation from Myron's teaching, which is, there's 4 levels of value. There's implementation, unification, communication, and imagination. 99% of the world lives in the implementation and unification level, which is either working with your hands, relatively speaking, or managing groups, managing teams. In either of those 2 levels, you could still make up to $250,000 a year annually. So like, that's another reason why a lot of people kind of get stuck there. But if you take a look around the world at like the people who are really changing things, moving things, gaining significant amounts of wealth, it's those who operate in the communication, the imagination level. So basically what it is like, the power of communication is being able to convey one message from your heart to another's heart, or vice versa, just building that connection. And it's just funny how communication and imagination, if you look at government indoctrination camps, only thing that comes to mind for me about communication, which I look back on, I actually did get my degree in communication, but I had no idea that this is what was going to happen. Even that was still not enjoyable, right? Like I remember when you had to have the speech, it's like speech day and everyone in class stands up and gives their speech. Like no one likes that. It makes communication like miserable. And I've just found that if you want to at least shortcut your way to massive success, I mean, you could always skip the communication bridge and just go straight to imagination, which is a lot of meditating and just using your mind to make money, basically. But communication is the ultimate like bridge between the two. And if you can live in a realm where all you got to do is talk and use your mouth to make money, you can just really maneuver and go whichever direction, whichever way you want to go with your future. So the best way to practice that, I believe, is through what you're doing, John, and what we're doing here is press and record, getting on camera, getting in front of a microphone. And trust me, there was a day in my life where I did not think I would be doing this. And I thought I was an introvert once upon a time too. It seems like that's how every communicator is. So that's the secret.
Absolutely. Right, yeah, totally agree. And you mentioned government indoctrination camps. And so what he means by that, us in the investor entrepreneurship space, that's kind of what we think of the traditional education system as, right? And it's they teach you in traditional school system to go out and be an employee and work for somebody else, and you kind of have to, at least based on all the conversations I've had, you kind of have to figure it out on your own, that there's a better way, that there's an alternate route that you can take and create a life that you want, the life of your dreams, and where you're compensated based on the effort and the value that you provide. So I love that. That's great. Yeah. All right, so let's talk about, you're like the networking god, dude. So give us some tips, man. You know everybody. What are you doing if you're out at a conference where you don't know anybody? What are you doing? What's your strategy? What are some tips for others?
Very simple strategy. Rinse and repeat. Ladies and gentlemen, please keep this in mind. No matter what environment you walk into, where you're going to be meeting new people or just connecting with people that you haven't seen in a while, if you come in with the mindset of asking each individual, look, this actually goes back to listening, asking each individual, we'll use the Intelligent Investors Real Estate Conference as an example, because you and I were just there recently, John. So when you get to talk to someone, ask them, what is it that brought you here? Not like, who are you? And that, I mean, you could ask that if you want, but what is it that brought you here? And who or what is the one connection or the one thing that you need right now to get your business to the next level? And one, you'd be surprised like how personal people will get with you, because it's like, what's the one thing that I need to get my business to the next level? Like, this guy's here to help me. But it gets people to open up. And then, as I mentioned, as long as you're listening and you take notes, after you meet 10 people, eventually you're going to find someone in that mix where you can help connect the dots for them to get their life and business to the next level. So that's my one piece of advice, really, from a networking perspective, is just come in and ask a question like that to as many people as you can, and it will serve you very well.
Yeah, totally. And one thing I'd like to add to that is just actually getting out and networking, getting out and meeting people. It's so huge. And for me, we're in the real estate investing space currently, but I'd imagine it's the same for any other endeavor you're trying to undertake. And, the more people you meet, not everybody's going to be a good fit, but you're going to learn something from everybody that you come across. And if you can observe, listen, communicate, as Adam's been saying, good things are going to happen. So let's talk about, so you mentioned networking. How about partnership? How did, how did this current partnership, that you're working within, how did that come about?
Yeah, with Hunter, it really, in many ways, it trails back to exactly what I was just talking about. And by the way, guys, I want to give a shout out to John. If you want to move forward faster in your life, this guy was sitting at the front row of like every single presentation at the conference. There's no surprise that like people like him are the ones who move forward the fastest. Like it's very simple. So sit at the front of the room anytime you get a chance. But yeah, so the partnership with Hunter started. I look back to, so I had left my W-2 full-time in real estate. I was a realtor with RE/MAX Distinctive in McLean, Virginia. Shout out to Andrew Reamer, who was my first broker there. And actually Andrew's a part of this story here too. I'll see if I can figure out how to tie him in specifically. But long story short, I heard Hunter on a podcast. And actually this is a cool thing about quitting my W-2. Maybe as a young entrepreneur, I didn't have as much structure as I thought I was going to have. But because of that, I found myself on YouTube University a lot. Like I was watching a ton of YouTube videos. That's when I first found out what Bitcoin was back in like 2016, 2017. People thought I was crazy then. People still think I'm crazy now. I know you're a crypto guy, John. We love that. So it's been cool to see just how that's played out. But there's a channel that I was following for Bitcoin information that happened to just have other kind of what I would call crazy guests on there. And Hunter and I, the reason why we click so well is because we are both what we would consider crazy compared to what the status quo is as far as politics. And I'm like, man, there's someone in commercial real estate, which is the direction I was thinking about going out of residential. There's a person in commercial real estate who has a very similar worldview to me. This is shocking. I got to reach out to this guy. So I reached out to him and I was like, is there any way I can learn from you, or, how may I serve you? Like, what can I do for you? And this is, if you listen to Hunter's story, he talks about how there was a point in his career where he was doing anything he could to fill up his calendar with appointments. And so that's true, because I remember he was like, if you have like the 10, he's like basically like the 10 wealthiest people in your network that you can think of, if you can make an introduction for me to them, like that would be awesome. And again, I was like just compelled and drawn to this guy. I'm like, yeah, I want to help him out. So sent him at age 25, 26, the 10 wealthiest people that I knew, which is probably like half of them were accredited. It's crazy to see how far we've come now. But one of the people that Hunter connected with was Andrew Reamer, who was, again, my broker at RE/MAX Distinctive. And I'll never forget, it was so subtle, but I was at the office one day and Drew walks by me. He's like, hey, it's like, talk to that Hunter guy you connected me with. And he's just like, it's like, keep hanging out with people like that. And I was like, dang, okay, that's a good sign. So a month or two went by, Hunter reached out and he's like, hey, I've been thinking about getting, putting together a program to help teach people how to get into this business. Would you be interested? And, for me, that's like, at the time, like, Michael Jordan saying, hey, I need someone for my team. You want to play? I'm like, yeah. So me and 4 other people went through the Cash Flow Connections real estate program, which has pretty much snowballed into RaiseMasters at this point. But we went through that program. And I hung on for dear life with Hunter. I followed up with him. I'm like, if there's any other way I can like keep learning from you or whatever. And then next thing you know, I started doing marketing projects and like social media type stuff for ASIM Capital. And I went to a conference with Hunter, represented the company at the time, and we hit it off. And up until that point, he had been very solopreneurship focused, just because in the business of commercial real estate investing, you can run very lean and mean. Like you can have 100 million in assets under management and just have 3 people on your team. So he's always had that mindset, but thankfully I did or said something right. And he started giving me opportunities. And that went from part-time to, I guess you could basically say full-time, just working on projects together, to now managing and running RaiseMasters, the #1 mastermind for elite capital raisers. So there we go.
It's awesome. That's great. I love to hear that. So, all right, I want to switch it up a little bit. Let's talk about Liberland. So yeah. I want to just let you kind of explain what that is, because it's a relatively new concept to me. And why don't you talk about what it is, what your role is in it, and yeah, just give us the down and dirty.
The Liberland story begins similar to my journey with Hunter, in the way that it was the same YouTube channel that the president of Liberland made a guest appearance on back in 2017, and it caught my attention. I'm like, man, so this Liberland is the best way I could put it, because I don't like to put labels on anything, like whether it's Democrat, Republican, like I can't stand labels. But if you wanted to say, oh, this is similar to a certain political party out there, the most similar political party that Liberland would be tied to would probably be libertarianism. So for those who want to label, there you go. It's like a libertarian country. It's in Central/Eastern Europe. The cool thing about Liberland actually is it really goes back to, I want to say, like the Hungarian Empire, but then after the Hungarian Empire, then there was Yugoslavia. And then after Yugoslavia, the fall of it in the 80s or in the 90s, whatever that was, there was, all these lines drawn in the sand everywhere between Slovenia, Croatia, Serbia, all the Balkan region. And I am, as I mentioned, I am Slovenian. So it's kind of cool that I've like stumbled upon Liberland, because I feel like it's in my roots almost. But so on the Danube River between Serbia and Croatia, there is a piece of land that both countries within the past few decades have basically come out and said, no, that's Serbia's land, or that's Croatia's land. And like, it's been fully documented, these occurrences of them saying it, which has created something called like terra nullius, and international law, basically no man's land. And our president, Vitya Lichka, who's from the Czech Republic, saw this loophole and one day made his way down there, stuck a flag in the ground and said, I claim this territory in the name of the Free Republic of Liberland. Some other compelling things about Liberland too, that I must say, pretty much probably how I found it, is the governance model is built on the blockchain, which that's definitely how I first found out about it, because I was geeking out about blockchain in 2017. And then also taxation is voluntary. And we could have a super long conversation on that, but they have a really cool structure on how it's voluntary, how it'll work. And you could basically think of Liberland, what it could do for the Balkan region from an economic boom perspective is similar to a Singapore, Monaco, Hong Kong type of situation.
Got it.
Very bullish, obviously, on the country. Founded in 2013. We're going on our 7th anniversary. I've got my Liberland passport right here. Yes.
So you say we're. What's your connection? What's your role with Liberland?
You're right. I didn't even say that yet. Thank you. Sorry, I'm just getting so excited.
That's awesome.
So I got on the Liberland mailing list, and they made an announcement. Hey, we're coming to Washington D.C. Fall 2017 or whatever, 2018 actually, I think it was. And I'm like, man, I gotta meet these guys. I gotta meet the president, gotta meet the vice president. And I RSVP, I show up at where the dinner was gonna be at. And I'm thinking there's gonna be, dozens of people there. Maybe if I get a second to talk to the president, I'll be lucky. And I walk in and there's a table set for like 20 people. And I sit down, I'm like, this is Minister of Foreign Affairs, Vice President, President. I'm like sitting next to everyone. I'm like, wow, okay, what do I do now? And I'm like, you know what? I realized that there was no podcast for the country. And I'm like, hey guys, I have a show. I do this show called Dream Chasers. I noticed there's no show for Liberland. Would I be able to do a podcast for Liberland? And, we had just met. So there was like, they're kind of like a little bit like, I don't know. But I just kept following up with them, and I did a couple episodes, and like, yeah, this is really good, Adam. Keep doing it. So then boom, 2018 launched the Liberland show. And that's my role, is I'm the voice of the country, I guess you could say.
Voice of liberty, right?
Voice of liberty. That's right. Michael Flight gave me that nickname. So, awesome. So yeah, that's my role, is I host the Nation's podcast.
That's so cool, man. I definitely want to look into that more. I'm very intrigued by that. I consider myself a libertarian, so extremely interested in that.
I love when I meet military folks that are libertarian. Those are my real OGs right there.
Yeah, man. I just, not to go too far into the politics, but that's how I identify. Nice. All right. So let's talk about, you mentioned Rich Dad, Poor Dad. What about another book that kind of changed your life in, either the investment space, personal development, entrepreneurship, just like one book that really had, flip the switches?
Man, this is deep. I'm going to go with I want to say it's called Your Invisible Power by Genevieve Berend or Berend. I'll look that up, and it's funny because I should know it. But I've actually listened to it. I'm going to give you two, because I've listened to these two books like 4 or 5 times a year for the past like 4 or 5 years of my life. And now that I'm saying it, like, I'm looking forward to the next time that I do. So Your Invisible Power, Genevieve Berend or Berend, I don't know how you pronounce her last name. And then The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace Wattles. Those two books, I know right now, like if I was listening to them on Audible, I'd probably just be able to quote along with they've just become like a part of my life. And
I've got a couple like that on Audible.
Yeah, dude. And they're just such a staple to, I think, and a tribute to the way that I think and look at the world now. What a lot of it all comes down to is, what's the other book by Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. It's similar to that book, which is just getting comfortable thinking in a way of the direction that you want to go, because thoughts become things. And yeah, those would just be two books. They're very easy reads too. I'd recommend to anyone. Your Invisible Power, The Science of Getting Rich. Just get them cemented into your head.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned Think and Grow Rich. It's funny, like you read that book, and if you start to read some other Napoleon Hill stuff, then it's like every other self-help book, personal development book that's been written since then. It's all just kind of like the stuff that he talks about. It's all just
Right.
like, originates from those OGs, like in that era. And
the other one that has a lot of it too is The Secret. That's another one that
I haven't read that one yet.
The Secret gets a little bit of a woo rep. Like people go, there's a lot of people who go, that stuff doesn't work, but it's another echo of Napoleon Hill's book for sure.
Yeah, I love Napoleon Hill. All right, so let's so I like to kind of wrap it up, move towards the finish line with so as you know, I work at Diablo Canyon Power Plant, nuclear power plant, California's last running nuclear power plant, set to close down in 2025. My mission is to replace my W-2 income with income from real estate. So I'm on this mission. I'm trying to help educate others. I like to get everyone else's opinion on how what folks can do, real estate, self-starting. What can you do to better position yourself 3 years down the road to ease the transition when we ultimately lose our jobs?
I may actually, you know what? You mentioned this, I think, before the call, so I didn't make a note of it. The first thing that I think is just kind of a staple for anyone who's getting ready to make a transition, you probably do want to have about 6 months of savings or just something there to help catch you when you make the jump. You want to aim to have about 6 months of something ready to go that's specifically there to help you as you make the transition. I think anything more than 6 months, honestly, can create some complacency, and anything less than 6 months, you could pull it off, but you might be sweating a little more. So 6 months is a good target of savings. And then from there, I think exactly what you're doing, John, which is figure out what direction you want to go and find the playbook. Something coming to mind for me right now, which, my wife is a nurse. She sees how, I walk 30 feet to go to work every day. Just kind of like, I want that. I know it looks like I'm in the Death Star right now. We don't live in the Death Star, but anyway, so she's back in school right now. She'll be done with her accounting degree here very soon. And I think she's going to go ahead and pursue some type of role where she would probably get a paycheck or a W-2 to get started. But one thing that I've at least encouraged her to do, because I know she's interested in the bookkeeping realm, I'm like, look, there's, someone that I know, I reached out to someone that I knew someone that had a bookkeeping course. It's like a $3,000 course on how to basically build your own entrepreneurship, like bookkeeping business. That would be like, that's just an example of what I would do if I'm trying to figure out what direction I want to go. Instead of going to get another W-2 job, like if you, like John, you want to raise money, you got the playbook now, you're with Hunter and I, like, just keep following the playbook like you are right now. It's going to work. So that would be my advice, is like, find your playbook, find your guru of the direction that you want to go, and pay your way to get there, and you will find success.
Absolutely. Yeah. Just self-education, taking action. There's plenty of time. Thank you for that. Okay. Just wrapped up 2021. 2022 is well underway. What are some things you're proud of from 2021? I know there's a lot to be proud of, and what are we doing in 2022?
Yeah, 2021, I think, one, without a doubt, getting married was huge. That was great. probably life, number one life achievement right there. I shouldn't say probably. My wife's listening. Number one, baby. And then also, being able to walk stage with Hunter and meet Russell Brunson and get the 2 Comma Club award from our success was pretty remarkable, just because I remember we were at Funnel Hacking Live 2020, which was right before the virus hit. And then they pushed the 2021 one back a few months, but it's still the next year. And I just remember leaning over to Hunter at 2020 and not knowing how, but watching people go on stage. And I was like, we'll be up there by 2022. and we beat it by a year. And again, it was like think and grow rich, right? Like I don't know how it was going to happen. So those were probably just two of the biggest milestones for sure. And I think you said, what am I looking forward to this year? I'm trying to remember.
Yeah. What are we working on in 2022? What are we trying to accomplish?
I'd say a couple things. Number one, I think that everyone involved, Hunter, myself, definitely you, all of our members, everyone involved would have a lot of fun this year if we could find a way to get RaiseMasters to 400 members, quality members. Keep in mind, not everyone gets in. So we get up to 400 quality members this year, just makes everyone's life better. So that's one goal. The other one is I do have a very, I'd say, artistic side to who I am. I've been very compelled and drawn to the NFT space over the past year. And so I'm creating art in the NFT space. I'm networking, communicating, even doing a little podcasting over there. And then along with the artistic side, I've always just had this desire and passion to like become the best DJ that I possibly could. I'm really good at like getting the crowd going and working a Spotify playlist. Don't get me wrong. But as far as actually legitimately working the turntables is something I've always wished I could do. So I'm in the middle of some coursework right now to become a DJ. And by the time I'm dead, if I don't make a crowd of 50,000 people go crazy at least once, then I'll feel like I didn't fulfill my life mission there. So that's something else I'm working on right now.
So good. So good. And just again, I want to say to everybody listening, if you're out there and you're having trouble funding your deals, if you're having trouble raising capital, I am a member of RaiseMasters. I'm not getting any compensation to promote this. I'm doing it because I love the group. It's amazing. Feel free to reach out to me and I can tell you in person how good it is. But RaiseMasters is the real deal. So Adam, what is a good way for people to get a hold of you, get in contact with you if they like what you got going on and want to learn more?
Sure. Thank you for the opportunity to share. First thing I do want to say is definitely the quickest, fastest way to learn more about RaiseMasters is if you just go to RaiseMasters.com, you'll have two options. You'll be able to register for an upcoming web class that we're doing, or you'll be able to log in. John, you can log back in. So RaiseMasters.com. And then, best way to get in touch with me is simple. My name, my email. So it's adam@carswell.io. adam@carswell.io. Would love to hear from you.
Excellent. And yes, everything will be linked in the show notes. So please do check that out. All right, ladies and gentlemen, Adam Carswell, thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you, John.
Thank you for listening to Freedom Investor Radio. If you like what you heard, make sure to rate, review, subscribe, and share with a friend. Thanks again for listening.